As always, thank you for being with us on First and Pod. Every team, every game, every week, coming to you after an old-fashioned, passionate beatdown. 3-score win, Niners over the Giants. Pony, pick a number, right? So there's a few minutes left in the game as we're starting this. 137 passing yards for Daniel Jones, nearly 2-1 time of possession edge for the Niners. Basically 3-1 total yardage edge. Niners over Giants. 29 rushing yards for the Giants. 25 first downs for the Niners against just 10 for the Giants. Niners converted 50% of the third downs attempt in this game, just over that. This was varsity v JV tonight.
Yeah, I just watch Purdy and I get so mad because I just feel like the guy's got an absolute horseshoe up his ass, and he's good. He's better than I thought he was.
The touchdown pass to
Samuel was very, very impressive.
What about the one to Bell, the left pylon?
That was good too. But I felt like
both of his touchdown passes were high degree of difficulty throws.
I know, but I felt like he could have thrown 3 interceptions in the first half.
I agree. He was leading guys into double coverage. He almost got a receiver killed.
Yeah, and so the Giants with Martindale are just going to send the house on every play, and I thought they got to him a little bit there. But whenever the protection was good, he made throws and he made plays. And then on the flip side, it's Daniel Jones, and it's hard to have empathy for a guy making that kind of money, but his offensive line was absolutely awful in this game. Darren Waller might be the most overrated player. Like, that guy stinks. What a terrible trade. I called that on this podcast. I hated that move. And again,
he was a fantasy darling this year.
Brutal. That last interception by Jones was Waller's fault and went off his hands and then his chest. And I love that Herb Street gave him crap for it. But with Barkley out, the offensive line problems, it was all on Daniel Jones, and that's fine against the Cardinals, but it's not against a team as stacked as the 49ers. So business-like, workman-like win by the Niners, although the only thing I'll say about that game from a negative standpoint from San Francisco, they should have something in place like they do in other sports where if a dude throws a punch and the refs miss it, somebody upstairs should buzz down and say, throw the guy out of the game. Trent Williams should not have been allowed to play in the second half of this football game.
I'm surprised that's your take as someone who's thrown a punch or two in his day.
No, it's someone who's taken a lot of punches who's saying that. I've been on the receiving end, so that's why I empathize with the dude who got clocked in the face by a gigantic man in this game.
Crazy miss. And I agree with you. If you're going to have replay, it feels like the type of thing that should be buzzed down from the tower, so to speak, called in from New York. And it drove Dable insane. Like, how many refs are there on a football field? 2 side judges, like line judge, back judge, referee.
It reminds me of pro wrestling. Like, the ref gets knocked out in the match, and then some bad guy hits a dude with a steel chair and wins. Like, this is not sports entertainment. This is real life. And if we're going to act tough about player safety, we should not allow for guys to get punched in the face and just say, well, the refs missed it, let's move on. Nothing gets missed. We've got replay and cameras everywhere and people upstairs who are in charge of seeing those things and disciplining those things.
Do you think it makes his punishment worse because he wasn't thrown out of the game?
No, he won't get suspended.
Right? It's not.
He'll just find a lot of money, but he makes so much money, Trent Williams, he probably doesn't give a shit.
No, I'm not saying he cares about the money, but I do wonder. I'd be surprised if suspension came into play, but I wonder if they factor in that he should have had like a de facto, suspension for this game, and they throw it at him for the next. I don't think so, but maybe they have a way to up the fine. But I think that is actually like tiered and negotiated for first offense, second offense, and stuff like that from the NFLPA. But I don't have much more to say about this game.
Because the Niners did what they were supposed to do in this game. Exactly. It was a short week. against an undermanned Giants team without two of their best offensive players, their best offensive lineman, and their best running back. And they just took care of business.
Ask me the first question.
Oh, yeah. I've been waiting all day for this, actually. All right. We're going to start with Bears and Chiefs. You're going to be at this game. Selfishly, we're starting with the two games we're flying to, but I actually think they're big games. One is a late afternoon game that most of America is going to get, and then the other is the Sunday night game. So Bears Chiefs, Danny, you'll be there. What's going on in Chicago?
Everything. Pure chaos. Now the Bears are projecting calm. Ryan Poles came out today, the general manager of the team, and he met the media. And I give him credit for that because a lot of GMs, including Chicago GMs, don't speak in season. Ryan Pace never spoke in season.
Steelers GM doesn't. Yeah.
Right. Most don't. They say they don't want to undermine the head coach. What happens in Dallas with Jerry Jones having a post-game press conference and a radio show is very, very rare. Ryan Poles, a few times when there have been crisis moments, Roquan Smith's holdout was a prominent example. He will speak when he feels like the questions that are being asked of his head coach are not fair. And he said, we're in a storm, and he tried to speak some truth to what was going on, his version of the truth. But on my show yesterday, Justin Fields, earlier in the day, had invoked the word coaching as to why he was playing too robotic, then felt like he had gotten taken out of context, then called a second press conference at his locker room to call out the media and say that the media is trying to tear the team apart and that it is on him to play better and not the coaches. And that didn't lead the show because the defensive coordinator resigned in disgrace, who the head coach had brought over from Indianapolis. They have a long relationship, and the team released a 12-word statement. Alan Williams resigned as defensive coordinator of the Bears this afternoon. He released a statement that the Bears passed out on 8.5 by 11 printed out paper, no Bears letterhead. That was his statement saying, I respect the Bears, the McCaskey family, Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, the city of Chicago, and the NFL Shield. This is a health matter and a family matter, and I will coach again. And no one on the Bears has been willing to say, our thoughts and prayers are with the Williams family. We will welcome him back with open arms.
So what happened?
No one knows. No one
knows.
No one is saying. People know. They're not saying. Pony, today.
Does the media know?
No, the media doesn't know. Dude, we're all working on it. The rumors that were out there was that the general manager had to say Hallis Hall wasn't raided by the FBI. That was said today into the camera. It's been a weird 48 hours. And here's where I'm at on it. Here's my working theory. Way too many people, mainly Ryan Poles and Alan Williams' attorney that he retained for all of the what he says are false rumors that were going out around the internet. They're going very hard that no law enforcement has been involved in this. This is not a legal matter. But if he had a health issue, you take a leave of absence, you don't give up your health insurance, you use the resources that the Bears have at their disposal, right?
Yeah.
And there would be sympathy or empathy in their statements.
Yeah, you take a leave of absence.
Right. So my working theory is scandal and health is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Some sort of addiction that is embarrassing that came into the workplace that is upsetting his family life, and he's quitting his job in order to save his family and deal with his issue, right? Like, now that is pure speculation, but nothing else really makes sense because I don't think a lawyer would tell every media outlet in the world, including my show, this is not a legal issue. Law enforcement has not been involved in any way. 911 call would be leaked. A police report would be leaked. There's like too much of a paper trail. Now, maybe they're hiding behind the technicality of there's not a legal issue yet, but I think that there is a scandal here. The Bears are clearly distancing themselves from Alan Williams. The story is clearly not over, but this is a massive distraction. And oh yeah,
How
by
about
the
the
way,
quarterback though? How about him?
well, right. Oh yeah, by the way, their left tackle is on IR. They're going to Arrowhead, and Justin Fields has said, F it, I'm going to play my game. Like,
I like that.
Me too. He's taking agency and ownership over the failure of the first 2 weeks. And if he's going to go down, he's going to go down his way. He's basically like, play-by-play broadcasters, we both know a ton of them. They say they got their big chart and they do all this prep, and then they end up probably using 20% of it because the game has to happen and they just have to go. I think what Fields is going to do is study his ass off during the week and then just go play and try to really not think when he gets out there at Arrowhead. And I expect him to be better in week 3 in the toughest environment you can have in football against one of the best teams in football. It's not going to be enough to win. I don't even think it's going to be enough to cover, but I do think he will play by far his best game of the year. He displayed a tremendous amount of agency, I thought, this week.
Even with a second press conference to pin it on you guys.
Yeah, well, listen, here's the thing. Dan Wiederer, and he copped to this. He's the Bears beat reporter for the Tribune. He sent out a tweet that was, I mean, I can pull it up and read it to you, but like he editorialized, he was like, wow, Justin Fields just pulled the pin on the grenade and rolled it into the room. Why he is playing so robotic. Quote, coaching, end quote. And that's not what he said. It was could be coaching, and it was a 90-second answer, and it was a 12-minute press conference. And at one point he said, listen, this is more on me than the coaches, but he was basically saying he gets inundated with information. Where do you get your information? From the coaches. And that was giving him a cloudy mind. So listen, it's a rule of leadership, right? You point a thumb, not a finger. He messed up by invoking coaching. I do think that he is upset with some of the coaching. Like, I think there's validity to it, but Dan Wiederer's tweet that did not have the full context behind it, as of last check, has nearly 6 million views. When an hour and a half later, he tweeted out the full quote, it had like 30,000 views. You know what I mean? So the internet aggregated one word, coaching, end quote, and all hell broke loose. So it was a month in a day, man. And distraction, right? You know enough football coaches. It's like the thing they hate worse than injuries. So I was like looking forward to the tailgate and going out to dinner with my wife after the game, but I was kind of dreading the 3 hours of the actual football. Now I think it's the most compelling game of the week by far. So I can't.
Well, that's why I put it first.
I know.
Thank you for complimenting my sense for what the biggest story is here in the NFL.
But also, Chiefs offense hasn't scored more than 21 yet. Bears defense has allowed Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield to convert 55% of their third downs. They have 1 sack in 2 games and no takeaways. Pat Mahomes is going to have 4.5 seconds to throw every single time he drops back. If the Chiefs don't hang 27, 30 at least on the Bears, I think we'll start to have some questions that are legitimate about what's wrong with the Chiefs offense. So I think this game is compelling from a number of levels. All right, the game you're going to. You're flying to Vegas to not do a show, to get hammered at Circa.
I am doing a show there on Saturday. That has been changed. Okay. So don't make it sound like I'm out there willy-nilly. There will be a show, and there will be.
How long is that show going to be?
2 hours.
Okay.
And there will be me in the press box Sunday.
All right.
For Steelers Raiders.
Where did you see that odds makers had Kenny Pickett as the choice to be the first quarterback benched, and could it happen? But first, I want to know your source on this.
Bet Online.
Yeah. These places just put this stuff out for conversation. And then
it worked. It got me here.
But I know, but you can't even take action on these bets.
You can't?
Who has a Bet Online account?
I don't. I use FanDuel.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm a Rivers guy. But do you know a single person in the world? Like, they don't take actual action.
I don't. I know, but I got an email on it. Just I was.
And how many hours of your show did you do on it?
Very little, because here the offensive coordinator is the huge story. And that's what I wanted to use this as a way
Okay.
So the quarterback benching thing, they can't do it. Okay. So let me just put that out there. For as bad, worst QBR in the league right now, Pickett, by some measures, worse than Justin Fields. Getting less attention, though. They won in spite of their offense. They had minus yards in the fourth quarter Monday night, and they won the football game. I mean, I don't think that had happened before in the it just if that had happened in the 104-year history of the NFL, I need to see the examples. You trail, you have negative yards, you win the game in the fourth quarter. No, the quarterback can't get benched, Danny, because your alternative's Mitch Trubisky. And if you bench Kenny Pickett, you're effectively saying, we're throwing in the towel on this guy to go to someone who best case scenario might get us to like mediocrity. Okay. Mike Tomlin, we know, cherishes his run of never having a losing season, but you can't, he drafted Kenny Pickett. He has to take ownership over Kenny Pickett. So he can't abandon the guy right now. He's not a young quarterback either. This is not a guy that left school early at 21 years old. Okay. He's older. He's the same age as Justin Herbert. He's older than Tua. So you can't do that. That's the first thing. The other one is I've never seen, and we've been in fish bowls. We know this doing local sports talk. Offensive coordinators get hammered all the time. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. Todd Haley hated my guts for it because him and Ben Roethlisberger didn't get along, and I picked a side. It was Ben. I took the Hall of Famer over a guy who I could get into some personal things, but I won't because I'm kind of tempted to do it right now, but I'm not going to go there.
You're sober. Good for you.
Yes. Some other people may not have been in the stories that I'm privy to. But anyways, we do that. That's what sports talkers do. They hammer offensive coordinators. It's risen to a point where nationally it's a story. When you have Colin Cowherd and Stephen A. Smith ripping an offensive coordinator who's never been an NFL head coach before and is a fairly anonymous figure, it's like, damn, this dude must be really bad at his job. And he is. You know, you've got analytics people saying they've never seen an offensive coordinator this horrible who telegraphs everything he does. So that's the thing. Like this Tomlin situation where he's beloved because he's never had a losing season and looked at as a Hall of Famer shoo-in, but he's employing right now the worst offensive coach in the entire league. And that's the story to this game. Tomlin came out and had to deal with 68,000 people Monday night screaming, "Fire Canada," near the end of the Steelers-Browns game, a game they were winning, by the way. And he had to answer questions about that this week, and it's the closest I've ever seen him to saying publicly that his offensive coordinator puts them at a competitive disadvantage.
Well, the question, obviously you're the expert there, and I won't say anything more like you didn't on the Bears thing, but it does beg the question of who will be the first quarterback benched. I don't know the rest of the odds. I would guess, I mean, does Zach Wilson even count? But I would guess Tannehill.
Tannehill, I think, was second or third. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, I don't know if Zach Wilson would count given that he's already, a replacement quarterback. But I mean, Tannehill was obviously better in week 2 because you could not be worse than he was in week 1. And they have Levis and Malik Willis there. So I would think that Tannehill would be a pretty strong candidate for that one. Next game.
Patriots Jets. Now, this is a crazy stat. New York has lost 14 in a row to New England. Will it get to 15 on Sunday?
Yes. I think that while the Jets defense is very good, the Patriots defense might be better. I think the Patriots defense is excellent. And we know Belichick hates the Jets. They have the worst quarterback in the game in Zach Wilson. Mac Jones doesn't have any weapons, but he has, this is weird, impressed me. Like, he's been way better. He's not been good.
Let me bend over and pick up that bar that's on the floor that you're saying that Mac Jones is clearing with that comment.
I know. And I understand that Philly's pass defense has been bad. And some of it was like he came back when they were playing prevent and they were up multiple scores. And I understand all of it. I thought he was straight up unplayable. And I no longer think that. And I would be interested in seeing what Mac Jones would look like with weapons around him, or like in an alternate universe where the Niners did what they initially had planned to do and traded up for Mac Jones. Does anyone think he's not capable of doing what Brock Purdy is doing? My answer to that is no. Like, I don't think Brock Purdy is better than Mac Jones, like, if he was in a great situation. So I think they've got the better quarterback, the better coach, and arguably the better defense. So I think the Patriots will win this game.
I think they will too. I think they have to. I think if they lose, it's going to feel like the Belichick experiment has reached, I think, its end. I honestly think it would be that severe of a loss if New England were to lose to the Jets, because everything you hold sacred and holy in New England, okay, we're dominant over this team. It would not be the excuse of the other team is Tua and the other team is stacked. Like, we've played 2 stacked rosters the last 2 weeks. The Jets have a really good defense and good position and good skill position players, but they have probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, just Zach Wilson is putrid. He's terrible. Nothing's changed. All this mentorship and apprenticeships crap about him working under Aaron Rodgers. He looked like the same Zach Wilson to me in that game against Dallas. You're Bill Belichick. Have your defense look like the Cowboys defense from last week. That's why you're the highest paid coach in the entire NFL. So huge moment here for him. And, you know, is Robert Saleh, does Robert Saleh get a free pass this year now because of what happened? If the Jets go 5-12, is he allowed to say, well, it's Zach Wilson's fault? Look at the situation I got put in. I get Aaron Rodgers back next year. I've been thinking about that a lot. Is it just a complete free pass season for everybody in New York?
Probably. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how ugly it gets. And they are 1-1. They didn't win the opener. So, you know.
Yeah.
He gets
the Bills. They beat the Bills last year too, though, and still felt like their young quarterback was someone that was.
Oh, wait a minute. But I'm just saying that's not a defense of Zach Wilson. It's not completely over of having a respectable season for the Jets. That's not off the table. You
Really?
mentioned the Cowboys.
Hold on a second. You think a respectable season is still in play for them?
Yeah.
What's considered respectable?
7 or 8 wins.
Okay. Wow. Like,
I mean, they were supposed to win 12 with Rodgers, and now they don't have Rodgers. You don't think that they could win 7 or 8 games with that defense?
I don't. This is not San Francisco or LA or Miami where they have the offensive coaches that can get the quarterback to play at a competent level to make everything else around him function properly.
I think they're going to play a lot of teams that are a lot worse than the Cowboys, and they'll look better than they did last week. But
you're picking them to lose at home to New England, Danny. Where are the wins going to come from if they don't? If you're saying they're not going to win this game?
I understand that I am picking it's a 2.5 point spread. I could be wrong, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, okay. What do you think their over/under should be for wins right now?
6.
And you'd go under?
Probably.
I'd go over.
Cowboys and Cardinals. The Diggs injury. How does that change things for Dallas? Big picture.
I mean, massively. He's a $90 million defensive player. He's an interception this year. He had 3 last year. He had 11 the year before. Like, yeah, he can give up some big plays, but they have arguably the best pass rush in football. So quarterbacks have to throw it sooner than they want. And there's no corner in the NFL who's got better ball skills right now. So he's a turnover machine who's perfect for that defense. So it's massive. Point blank. Can they still win a Super Bowl?
No, they can't. I didn't trust them to win one anyways or before. So how can I look the other way and ignore this?
Listen,
now?
I tend to agree with you, and I love the firm, quick no. But man, There aren't that many impressive teams in the NFL right now.
I thought last week you were saying the NFC, we need to start giving it more credit. There's more good teams than we thought. And now you're just saying the NFL.
More credit than we thought. We thought that there were 2.5. How many teams have played well through San Francisco, Dallas, Miami?
Well, but there usually aren't that many, quote, dominant teams. Those, for 2 games, those have been the dominant teams in the NFL. But look at who the Cowboys did it against.
Okay, all I'm saying is if it ends up being that they're a cornerback away, you don't think it's possible that Jerry Jones trades a 2nd-round pick?
For who?
I mean, how about Jalen Johnson? If the Bears thing falls off the rails and he's an expiring contract at the end of the year, just to throw out a local name who's
he's not as good as Diggs, but he's better than whoever's going to take his spot right now.
Yeah, he's very good. He's a number 1 corner. So I'm just saying if they're going to score 30 a game and have the best pass rushing duo in the league, I can't. And Philly doesn't look great, and San Francisco has Brock Purdy. I can't rule it out.
Something has happened to you, because before the season started, it was I don't really care. It's Mike McCarthy as their coach. Now they lose one of their best players, and you're like, the Super Bowl is still in play because they beat the Jets and Giants.
Obviously, I would not bet them to do it, and I think I said last week, Dak is not throwing 24 times a game. He had 37 pass attempts last week? They're scoring a ton of points and
so
throwing.
You are using this podcast as a way of now standing out for Mike McCarthy. You are now a pro Mike McCarthy guy.
It's been 2 games against the Giants and Jets.
Exactly. That's why you shouldn't change your mind and say they can win a Super Bowl. Stop.
Okay. Name the teams who can win a Super Bowl.
There's probably like 8.
Name them.
Name them right now?
Yeah.
Okay, 49. I don't even want to say 49ers because
Right. Go ahead.
Because 49ers
on one of these pods, you've said that Brock Purdy can't win a Super Bowl.
I have.
So
you're right.
So you're already flip-flopping.
Now you're throwing it back at me, damn it.
All right, yeah. So the Niners nor the Cowboys can win. So the Eagles are the only team in the NFC who can win the Super Bowl?
Kind of feels that way to me right at the moment. Yeah. As a matter of fact.
Okay, that's obviously ridiculous, but go on. Now there's 7 teams in the AFC, apparently, that are better than Dallas. Go ahead.
Okay, maybe my 8 number was a little ambitious.
I'm just saying, okay? You're attacking me for some supposed flip-flopping or hypocrisy here, and then you say ridiculous things. Two can play this game, my friend. 2 can play this game.
Falcons and Lions. Can Falcons pass Lions as NFC's, quote, fun team with a win?
I feel like this is very disrespectful to the Geno Smith Seahawks. But
last year.
Okay. I think the answer then has to be yes. Bijan is clearly going to have a viral highlight every week he's healthy. They could be 3-0. They have serious fantasy football implications. They've got cool uniforms. Yeah.
They have cool uniforms? Where is this coming from?
Dude, the Falcons are cool. The Dirty Bird, early Deion Sanders. They are a cool organization. There are cool organizations and there are uncool organizations. The Falcons are a cool organization.
They were quarterbacked by Matt Ryan for more than a decade. He is the antithesis of cool.
And before that, they had Jamal Anderson doing the dirty
for 1 year.
They're cool. We can do a cool or not cool. Throw a team at me. I'll give you my first blush reaction. Cool or not cool. Falcons are cool.
The Falcons are cool.
The Falcons are cool. My answer is yes. I liked your question.
Thank you.
You hate all my answers today.
Well,
I'm asking the questions going forward.
Okay, fine. I said on the podcast after Sunday's games that I'm falling in love with the Falcons, and I'm kicking myself for wanting to be a contrarian and just going against the current of love for them in the preseason because it just seemed like it was so overwhelming that a lot of smart people were on this team. The only thing I'll say is I would beware of this. I think they're at such an advantage right now because offensively they're so different from everybody else in the league. And so many teams have been designed defensively to stop teams that look more like the Lions offense and less like the Falcons. And I do think it's going to take probably about a month and a half for teams to adjust to them and figure them out and see the tape of 5 or 6 games and come up with ways to slow them down and stop them. So I think right now the Falcons are at a huge advantage over teams. I think they're going to win this game outright.
Oh, wow. See, I
I do.
love Detroit in this game. It sounds like we should bet that we should hammer the over.
Why? But is Atlanta an over team? Atlanta's a low possession team.
No, I know, but you're saying teams aren't going to be Detroit's defense is not looking very good. They give 37 to Seattle. It's a dome game, obviously. I think the Lions are legit. They beat the Chiefs in the openers, score 31 in a loss where they had a couple of
I think the game could go over. I mean, if you twisted my arm, I'd probably pick the over. It's not like my favorite total or bet of the week, but I don't mind that bet. I mean, 46 seems a little bit low to me.
I love the Lions -3 though. So we're on opposite sides there. That'll be fun to talk. And
we'll have to wait until after this game for you to flip-flop on the Lions and now say that they went from your Super Bowl pick to a team that will be lucky to make the playoffs like you've done with the Cowboys here.
Well, I'm still waiting for a second team in the NFC who can win the Super Bowl, according to you. So,
yes.
And by the way, we should let our audience know that the Week 3 reaction pod is coming after the Monday night doubleheader.
Yes, thank you for doing that.
Because you're going to Sunday Night Football in Vegas, and I'm flying out first thing Monday morning from Kansas City. So we're not going to do this on the road, and we're not going to record it 2 a.m. after.
So you'll get an extra bonus. You'll get reactions to Monday nights instead of previews.
Yeah, so we're gonna be a day late on the reaction here.
I will let you ask a lot of questions in a row, but we already have to change this next one because of the news from today that came out before I submitted the questions. And that's Panthers Seahawks. And so this was it was a question about Bryce Young, and it was more about like performance and how he got taken out for a quarterback sneak. Now it's just legitimately about, again, his durability as a small guy, because it's being reported by the team itself that he's probably not going to play against Seattle, and it's Andy Dalton in this game, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is still fair. It's just that the news, maybe colors it a little bit different from when you sent the question this morning. How do you feel about Bryce Young? I mean, obviously you're terrified. Terrified. You traded a bunch of draft capital and a top 20 receiver to draft an undersized guy who everyone said was going to be a question mark of holding up in the NFL. And 2 games in, he's missing time for Andy Dalton, and they're volunteering to take him out on plays where you want the quarterback to run. It's obviously not good. I will say that this is just my eye test. I can't say that I've watched every pass, but I've watched quite a few. I don't think he looks bad. He has no weapons. We knew that before the year. It's like, it looks like he needs DJ Moore, and they traded him away. We knew he did not have game-changing weapons. To me, a big thing is your release time. He looks like a guy who will be able to snap, throw, get the ball out from the pocket, and put it where it needs to be accurately. That's a very valuable thing. So I don't think my eyes are telling me that he's for sure a failure, but his body might never let him get there. And who knows about if they ever build around him. But my eyes tell me the passing is fine.
That's what I would worry about. He's so small, and their line has regressed from a year ago with the coaching change. And is he going to take so many hits this year? And I don't even mean from a physical injury standpoint. Like, are all of those hits going to do some kind of psychological long-term damage? Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghosts. David Carr in Houston type of situation here with Bryce Young. That's what I would be worried about. In this case, I think it's doubly bad because there's the very real threat that he's so tiny that he could also break from the hits. But I also would not dismiss the idea that it could do something. You get thrown in there, you get hit a lot, you don't like the feeling of getting hit. And how does that affect you going forward? Yeah, he got hurt in college, but it was at Alabama. Let's not act like, he was Josh Allen at Wyoming where he was under siege all the time. Okay, like those quarterbacks are pretty insulated there. And that's why, like, I would be, you said scared to death, I think. I would agree with that as a Panthers fan. I don't think this is a good situation right now. The only thing that's good for Young is that even if it goes horribly wrong and it's terrible, the idea that he's the number one pick, they're committed to him long term. Some of these other first round picks, maybe that's not true of in today's NFL, but he's going to get all kinds of chances here next year, the year after, to be their quarterback.
But they gave up. They didn't inherit the number one pick. They traded for it. So it's tougher to build a team around him on a rookie deal.
Yep, 100% agree with that.
You know what I mean? It's not like their pick they go 4-13. All of a sudden, the Bears have the right to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., who would help Bryce Young a lot, So it's just, he needs to be a guy who elevates the talent around him, because his receiver that they're going to draft is going to be drafted with like the 36th pick in the draft, So it's going to be harder to get him the help quickly. Packers, Saints, which team has the higher upside this year?
So I was hoping you would go and answer this question first, because I think your answer is the Packers, and I think that's so wrong. I think it's got to be the Saints, because I think their defense.
But now instead of hating my takes when I give them, you're assigning me my take.
Yes, I am.
And then refuting it proactively.
Yeah, because I know you so well.
You have checkmated me, sir.
Yeah, because it's got to be the Saints here. And it's not an NFC South argument, in my opinion. It's not just saying the division.
You believe in their defense.
I think their defense is great. Defenses don't get you as much as they used to. But I also think that they'll get Kamara back off suspension following this game. Olave's been awesome this year. Thomas looks like he actually has a pulse. They, despite what seems to be like the worst cap situation in the entire league every year, I feel like they've actually built a pretty good team across the board, man. And we see with Derek Carr, some years he's like a top 12 quarterback. Other years he's barely a top 25 quarterback. Maybe this is one of those years. I said to you on this podcast before the injury happened that I thought there was at least a chance Derek Carr had a better year than Aaron Rodgers. So I'd like to take credit for that right now, because that was a clairvoyant opinion on my part. He is having a better season than Aaron Rodgers, and he does have a chance, I think, of winning at least one playoff game there this season.
You should be very proud of yourself. I would say the Packers. Who's the coach of the Saints?
Yeah, I knew that was going to be the comeback. PFF thinks Jordan Love's overrated. PFF's got their grades out, and they're saying the 6 touchdowns and whatever else, not impressive at all from Jordan Love. Take your 6 touchdowns and shove them right up your rear end.
Okay, that's fine. But he didn't have Bakhtiari. He didn't have Elgton Jenkins.
Yep.
He didn't have Aaron Jones. He didn't have Christian Watson. And he's looking pretty good. Pretty good. So I just think the coach is so much better. And by the way, we'll see what the Packers defense ends up being. I agree that it's likely that the Saints defense is going to be better than them, but Packers got a lot of talent on their defense. So I think that the offensive ceiling for Green Bay is higher than it is in New Orleans. But you've always been a big Derek Carr guy. And by the way, It's sickening to me. I have no desire to say this, but I think that I think both the ceiling and the floor, frankly, are higher in Green Bay. Man, now I don't even really care who goes first if you're going to assign me my opinion. Broncos Dolphins. Have you, Andrew Fillipponi, made the Dolphins the number one contender in the AFC?
To Kansas City.
Oh, to Kansas City. I
Yes.
misread your question. I'm sorry.
Like, okay, so Kansas City is obviously the champion, and who is the team that is
Right.
positioned to knock
So
them off?
it has been Cincinnati. People had wanted to make it Buffalo. You're basically saying, who is the Phil Mickelson to Tiger Woods? That's what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, this is an open shut case. I mean, this one is easy. I don't think you need Perry Mason on this one to litigate it for you. Like, I think it's easily Miami. I was less sure about that when the season started. I kind of had them as maybe like the 6th or 7th seed in the AFC, but some of these teams have dropped like flies. The calf injury for Joe Burrow, Jacksonville, we'll get to them. They're going to take advantage of a really weak division. The Chargers are 0-2. The Ravens would be the other team, but I feel better about the Dolphins than I do the Ravens, just because of, hey, both quarterbacks have injury risks, no doubt about it. But I like the cast of characters and the weapons in Miami. They haven't been beset by the injuries Baltimore has. So yeah, I would say the Dolphins right now would be the team with the best shot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think it's a pretty open and shut case. Do you think this will be the most teased game, maybe of the year? I feel like every teaser in the world is going to just say, yeah, the Dolphins are going to win. Of course. They're at home, South Florida humidity in Tampa, no belief in Russell Wilson. Take it from 6.5 down to they just have to win the game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if like 90% of teasers placed, you're going to Circa this weekend. If like 90% of teasers placed at Circa.
That's a great point, dude.
Was the Dolphins down to 0. And I know it's like every 6.5 point line gets teased, but this is just like narrative, fantasy, team that the public loves against team that the public hates, across the key number. They just have to win. I feel like literally every teaser that anybody bets is going to be Miami.
Well, I've been hating most of your opinions, but I think this is a brilliant one.
Thank you.
On your part. And now that you've said that, it scares me. And I'm beginning to regret what I just said about the Dolphins, because that makes me feel like the Broncos are going to pull off some like ridiculous upset where their defense forces like 5 turnovers. Russ makes a couple of big throws late and they win the game like 23-20 or something like that. So
yeah, I'm like, God, I feel like everyone in the world. It's a tricky Survivor week because there are so many options.
Correct.
Yep. There's a lot of teams that are 6-point or more favorites.
I have labeled Bills Commanders as my quote, Andrew Fillipponi sneaky big game of this weekend. Thoughts?
I feel like it is bigger for Buffalo than Washington because of expectations. Washington came into the year with nobody thinking they could win their division, and the majority of people thinking that they were more likely to get a top 10 pick than contend for a wild card, even though I was in the group of people who thought they could contend for a wild card. So I don't think there's like a ton of pressure on them. And if they lose a non-conference AFC game to a team that people thought was great, nothing should really change for their prospects of making a wild card or being the 7th seed in the NFC. But if the Bills lose as a touchdown favorite in Washington, we have to stop talking about them as a contender until further notice. So I think it's a significant, and obviously it's normally a bigger game for the favorite than the underdog, but I think it is significantly bigger for Buffalo than Washington.
See, I don't think anything that you said there was like that irrational or illogical to me. Like most of what you said there, I think.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Like some of that, I'm like, okay, like Danny's onto something. I'm just surprised in the spiel that you just had you didn't allow for the possibility of like what the narrative or what the conversation will sound like around Washington if they win. It was more about if the Commanders win, what it means to Buffalo. If they win, they become one of the biggest stories in the NFL. They'd be undefeated. It would remind me in a way of when Miami beat Buffalo early in the season last year. And even though Buffalo was not held in the same regard as they were at this time last year, the Commanders would be one of these teams where, okay, do we need to collectively as a football society reevaluate who they are?
After beating Arizona and Denver?
After beating Buffalo, I'm saying.
No, I know, but like almost collapsing, the against the Broncos and beating a team that everyone thought was tanking, and then beating a team that people would just say, oh, all the smoke was that there's something really wrong with Buffalo. Clearly we were right. Let's wait till Washington plays a good team. Like if Washington
don't think they'd get credit for beating a good team with the Bills? I mean, I've been an ass.
On Monday on Get Up. The old you know what I mean? Like the whatever
the Get Up standard here.
Oh no,
Mike Greenberg bar. Dude, no, I get what you're saying.
No, to use the first thing pod bar. What's the bigger story? The team that won or the team that lost?
Well, in this one, it would probably be, well, I don't know, Danny. Like,
it would be the team that lost.
You don't think we'd say, do we have to start taking the Commanders seriously? If
we would after we said, Buffalo, biggest frauds in the NFL. Worst start, you know what I mean? It would be more about Buffalo.
I don't know, man. If Howell were to outgun Josh Allen after what Allen did last week to remind people that he still is an elite quarterback, he completed like 13 passes in a row. If Howell and what is still regarded as a good defense, if they scored like 30 points and won the game, they're the story. I'm sorry. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
You don't have to apologize, buddy. And by the way, the disagreement probably proves the point that it's a sneaky big game for the weekend. Who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to take Washington.
Outright.
I'm going to get on your team's bandwagon here. I'm going to get on your level.
Good for you. I hope they win. It'll make me feel very smart. I think they're plucky. But I still think that the narrative would be about Buffalo. All right. This is like sports sad, right? Titans, Browns. What was your take on the Nick Chubb injury? What do you think about Cleveland and Kareem Hunt and what they're doing to replace him?
I think the Browns season effectively ended when he was carted off the field. And it's one of the rare players in the NFL. It's one of the few running backs. Derrick Henry would be another one of these guys that even though the Browns on paper have such a good roster, he's their best. He's their guy. He's their dude. He is so he's not flashy. He has very few like highlight reel plays, but he is just so consistently great. I'm a Steelers guy, but I really respect the F out of Nick Chubb. I don't know how you couldn't.
Absolutely, man. He's I use this anecdote sometimes, but like I've covered one Pro Bowl and all the best players in the NFL. And it was when it was like not AFC, NFC, it was like drafted teams or mixed teams or whatever. And in the locker room, these are all the best players. But then there was like a hierarchy. And it was Drew Brees and J.J. Watt that like Jamal Charles was like, oh my God, I can get Drew Brees' autograph. Like the greats among the greats. I feel like all of these guys are tough and all of these guys are physical specimens. But then there are just like some people, Micah Parsons, Deebo Samuel, Nick Chubb is one of those dudes.
Yeah.
Like he's just, it's like Eric Dickerson is playing football in this era. Like he feels like time travel. He's awesome. I think he's like your favorite football player's favorite football player.
And I'm saying this about the Browns, like their season shot after losing a running back, which is supposed to be a fungible position. while they have what many believe to be one of the 3 or 4 best defensive players in the league and the highest paid quarterback. And I don't think I'm
Well,
wrong.
Deshaun Watson looks completely busted. That is
I told you that. I said, I don't care what he did 3 years ago with the Texans. The guy looks mentally shot to me. That's what he looked like last year in those final 6 games. And no one wanted to believe that those final 6 games.
I agree with you about what he looked like last year. I just thought that he was going to,
snap out of it. The light was going to come back on for him. No.
Yeah, that, dude.
And that's why all they could do was Kareem Hunt. That's why they couldn't go out and get Jonathan Taylor or something like that. They don't have the draft picks. His cap hit goes way up at $63 million next year. The dead money is over $200 million. They are stuck with this guy. They thought the bargain there was our fans won't care because he's so good. And we don't care that we're going to alienate people right away. They'll come back around as soon as this guy is great again. And he's not. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, that's the thing. He's not, it's not like he's like, oh, he's not great. He's not keeping up with Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Lamar or whatever and Lawrence. It's like he's not Dak. He's not Kirk Cousins. Like he's not a starting caliber player, but he's the highest paid player. You know what I mean? Like he is objectively terrible.
I think you gave me some crap. I said it reminded me of Carson Wentz. I think you can lose it like that. I think that happens in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Wentz was hurt. That was what I pushed back on. Like, you know what I mean? I thought that like he had kind of embraced it and moved on, and he's not getting protested anymore. He's not getting booed. He's not even getting asked about it. Like, you know what I mean? I thought he was going to bounce back, and so far I'm looking very wrong. You called Chargers Vikings the first playoff game of the season. Oh yeah, here we go. Which team losing would be the bigger story?
Well,
the Commanders.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the argument for the Vikings. The argument for the Vikings losing is this. If they're 0-3, then the Kirk Cousins rumors heat up.
Yep.
And the quarterback-hungry teams are going to look at Kirk Cousins because Minnesota has a way to get out of that contract after this season. So that would be the compelling part of the Minnesota loss. We know what the Chargers story is if they lose. It's how does this coach find a way to lose again with all this talent and with that quarterback? So, that would be a polarizing thing. But I think for us, the most interesting thing would be, okay, now can we connect teams to Kirk Cousins? Can an in-season trade of a quarterback work? What would a team have to give up to get him? So that's why I'm answering Vikings.
I agree with everything you said about Cousins. And by the way, he is the type of quarterback that I think an in-season trade could work. Like, he clearly very smart, good at executing a game plan. If you watch the quarterback show, studies his ass off.
But I thought he kind of came off as a creature of habit. And if you mess with that routine and have something like some massive change occur in a season with him, like it's going to just throw him off all the way.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that a lot of teams are running a version of that offense, right? O'Connell's off the McVay, off the LaFleur, off the Shanahan, like they're all on that tree right now. Like a third of the teams in the league at least are running some version of that. So there could be a fit with that. And he would transfer the habits. It would be about learning the new offense. The Chargers, to me, like from the team, because it was like what team losing would be the bigger story. It's the Chargers. They lost their first 2 games by 5 points. A lot of us think, yeah, they can't win the division, but they can. If they make the playoffs, they can win the Super Bowl because they've got one of the best rosters in the NFL and they've got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and they'd be the team that if they got in, nobody would want to play them. And I believe that. But if the Chargers lost, it'd be very difficult to see them making the playoffs, obviously. And also, Brandon Staley, first coach fired, feels almost inevitable. So like, I don't know that Kirk Cousins gets traded if it falls apart because he is producing at a high level and it's the NFC. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not positive that happens, but I think it becomes a near certainty that a coach gets fired, even if it's not in season. But like Brandon Staley's done if they miss the playoffs. So I think the ramifications for the Chargers is massive too. And I just think that their ceiling is higher than Minnesota's. Like I flatly think they're a better team. I think they're going to win. I bet them plus 1.5.
All right, Danny, the next one here.
Yeah.
Colts Ravens. Anthony Richardson's questionable in this game. Now, Boomer Esiason, does he still do a show with you guys? Is that still happening?
It does not.
Okay, so I'm spilling tea that I should put back in the cup here. Anyways, he used to do a show with you. We both know Boomer. We both love Boomer. He made the point on his radio show this week that guys like Anthony Richardson should probably not be playing right now. Because when you look at Justin Fields in Chicago, your guy, you look at Zach Wilson in New York, if those guys would have sat their first year or two, it would have led to, obviously much better than what those guys have shown so far and what they're doing right now. What do you make of that? This is a former NFL MVP who played the position saying that these guys getting rushed because of impatience by owners is having a huge detrimental effect on their careers. You buy it?
No. I don't. I think that it's circumstantial at best. I think that Mahomes benefited from sitting behind Alex Smith, but I'm not at all convinced that Chiefs team at some point during that year would not have had a much higher ceiling if Pat Mahomes would have been playing than Alex Smith. And Alex Smith had been winning 10 and 11 games and taking them to the playoffs for 4 years before Mahomes got there. Now, Mahomes credits sitting is helping him and credits Alex Smith and says all of the right things, but talent is talent.
But what if like Jordan Love had to play from his rookie year?
Well, that's what I'm saying though, right? Like it's a case by case. Dude, I told you that I thought Anthony Richardson needed to sit, and I'm normally a play him guy. Like,
do you feel that what Boomer said about Justin Fields has validity?
Yes. So like, here's when I would play the quarterback immediately. It would be the majority of the time. But if I am a GM and a coach who are not in lockstep, and I don't have 100% faith in my offensive coach and my offensive system, and hopefully my head coach is my offensive system, like the Bears played Fields in an Andy Dalton offense in a make-or-break year for Matt Nagy when everybody was getting fired. Terrible idea. The last Bears quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, they played Mitch Trubisky when they benched Mike Glennon in a Dow Loggins offense when everyone knew they were going to fire John Fox. So now he plays in an offense at North Carolina, then a Dow Loggins offense, then a Matt Nagy offense. Then Justin Fields plays in a Ryan Day offense at Ohio State, then a Matt Nagy offense that he's rushed into, and now he's in a Luke Getsy offense. So it's 3 offenses in 3 years. But if if the Dolphins drafted a quarterback tomorrow and I had 100% faith that Mike McDaniel was my dude and they drafted a quarterback in the top 10, trial by fire, baby. Most valuable thing in the NFL is a good quarterback on a rookie contract. It's the easiest way to build a team that wins.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
If I had stability, I would play him. I thought that Richardson was too raw to play. But I told it to you last week, man. I know a lot of it was garbage time, but CJ Stroud has a 380-yard passing game. Richardson looks poised. Like, they're throwing these guys to the wolves, and they're getting valuable experience. I am on board with that.
I told you my conspiracy theory that it's because you've got great quarterbacks in next year's draft, and the Colts could just always punt on Richardson after 1 year and draft one of those guys if he was bad. So they wanted to use all 17 games to figure that out this season. It is interesting to me, just a quick aside here. Gardner Minshew has 45 touchdowns and 15 interceptions in his career and a passer rating of 94. Those are objectively great numbers. And it's like outside of being a quarterback on a horrible Jags team for that 1 year, he's just pretty much been a backup. And I always thought this year that because Steichen worked with him in Philly, so he knew the system, and given Richardson's rawness, that they were just going to let Minshew play for a lot of the year, and he was going to be. There's a fascination on my part with how this guy looks in their offense starting Sunday against Baltimore if Richardson doesn't play.
Texans, Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, 28th in QBR. He's behind the aforementioned Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. He's also behind Zach Wilson. You expect him to cook, right, against Houston?
Well, he has to, but what do you make of the fact that there's been no is this just one of the times where a stat is misleading? Or do you think that there's actually some things about Lawrence through 2 games that would make you question him more? I mean, you're a resident Trevor Lawrence lover, so I'll kind of push that back on you.
So I think that Trevor Lawrence has everything in the world as a physical tool to play the position. But sometimes I have been underwhelmed with, frankly, between the ears with some of the decision making, the brains, the post-snap processing, that sort of thing. And I thought he was fine in week 1 against Indy. 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then last week, it was just a weird game, and the Chiefs defense looks really good, and it was not impressive. He was very inefficient, struggled, looked frustrated, body language was bad, the whole thing. I think he's very talented, but something's missing. You know what I mean? Something's missing. But it's not the physical skill set. It's just not. So I'm left and it's not the coaching anymore. And it's not, and he's got Calvin Ridley, who looks amazing. You know what I mean? I think Trevor Lawrence will be great. I've said that since he was in college.
But it sounds like you think he's overrated right now.
I do. The only thing that I can conclude is that it has to be something with his football brain that he is I don't want to say he's like dumb or I don't know him like that, but it's such a huge part of quarterbacking. Snap the ball, get it out. Be accurate. You don't have to throw a fastball every single time. If I needed a quarterback to throw a 20-yard out route, a drive it and throw it through, he might be my first pick in the entire league to make that throw. He's got unbelievable arm talent, but the production just isn't there. So yeah, he is a little overrated right now, objectively.
Let's leave it right there because I'm not going to be able to top that.
All right.
Enjoy Kansas City and all the barbecue. We're in 2 great places this week. I'm in Vegas. You're going back to Kansas City. I look forward to, after the Monday night doubleheader, recapping both of those games and talking to you about your trip and your trip, man. Hopefully, I will have recovered from mine by the time we talk.
And the Monday night games are huge. Can Tampa go? Who goes to 3-0? Philly, a big
Burrow's injury.
Yeah, Burrow's injury, and they could go to 0-3. We don't know if he's going to play. So, huge doubleheader, man. Thank you to Spencer Ray. Subscribe, rate, review, First and Pod. Peace.